Dun 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 dun! Mr. M presents Square Groots. Square Roots. Hi everybody. In this video we're going to take a look at square roots and how we can use them. The word square root has a really good clue for how you actually use them, and we'll talk about that in a second. I'll give you a hint. So what we've got here are some square grids, and these square grids will help us figure out where square roots come from and how we can more easily find them. So right here I have a grid square with 4 squares in it. And this square is made up of 2 squares times 2 squares. And that makes sense, right? Because 2 multiplied by 2 equals 4. Another way I can say this now that I know about powers is I can say that 2 to the power of 2 equals 4. Now, what I should remember here is that this part right here is known as my exponent. This part of the square is known as my base or my root number. That's going to be important in a second. Over here, I've got a grid of 9 squares, and that's made up of 3 times 3 squares equals 9. That's made up of 3 to the power of 2 squares equals 9. And over here I've got a grid of 16 squares, and that's made up of 4 squares times 4 squares, which equals 16, of course. And I can also say that is 4 to the power of 2, which equals 16. In each case, take a look. I've got a root number here. Okay, 2, 3, and 4. So a square root is when I take a number that's been squared already or that could be squared, and I find the root number. So it's just that simple. If I have the square root of 4, then I know my answer is 2, because the root number that gets me to 4 is 2. That's the root number. If I have the square root of 9, I know my answer is 3, because the root of 9, if I'm squaring, is 3. And if I have the square root of 16, then I know my root number is 4, because the number I have to square to get to 16, the base or root number, is 4. So one method I can take when I'm finding a square root is simply look for the square root button on my calculator. It'll usually look something like that. But some of these I should be able to do without having to reach for a calculator, because they're numbers that I'm so comfortable and familiar with that I don't need to use a calculator to help me find what the root of the square is. So here I have 2 square numbers, 36 and 81. Both of those are made up of one number multiplied by itself, or one number squared. So I just have to think to myself, what number multiplied by itself, or squared, equals 36? Well, I should hopefully be able to remember that 6 multiplied by 6, or 6 squared, equals 36. So my root number is 6. So the root of 36 is 6. And same deal over here. I should be able to remember that to get to 81, I can multiply 9 times 9, or 9 squared. And that means that my root number here is going to be 9. So it's just that simple when you're using numbers that you're already really comfortable with. Now, one other way that square roots can be useful to us is when estimating. I don't actually know the square root of 289 off the top of my head. It's just not a number that we see in our multiplication memorization. But there are some other large square roots that I can remember, and they can help me. So, for example, I know that the square root of 100 equals 10, because 10 times 10 equals 100. And I know the square root of 400 equals 20 because 20 times 20 equals 400. So I have to think about it and think, okay, well, if the square root of 100 is 10 and the square root of 400 is 20, this number falls somewhere in between those, probably a little closer to the 400. So I'm not going to say 15 because if I've got 10 here and 20 here, then 15 would fall right in the middle. I'm going to say it's a little larger than 15, so I'm going to guess 17. And I've got a calculator here. I'm going to check. Yep, you know what? 17 times 17 equals 289, or 17 to the power of 2 equals 289. So even without knowing, I was able to do a really good estimate and just guess that whole number just based on these other square roots that I did know. So knowing some large square roots will help you solve some that you don't know if you can just estimate properly. Hope this video helped with square roots, and I'll look forward to seeing you when we talk about order of operations soon.